and livelihood is a very small part of it. But the problem with today's education system is it is 100% about jobs. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the IMA podcast series, which we are doing for the fourth Women's Conclave being organized in Indore. I'm happy to have here Gitanjali J. Angmo, who's the founder of Himalayan Institute of Alternates, Ladakh, better known as HIAL. She's a change maker in the field of education, and we would love to hear her thoughts about transformative education. So, welcome, Gitanjali, to this podcast. It's lovely to have you here. Likewise. So, I think, I read something very interesting about you, that not only are you a serial entrepreneur, but you're also trained in Russian ballet as well as a certified karate black belt. Yes. So what do? You ballet your way to boardrooms and then tackle challenges with karate chops? So at a very young age, when I was 16, I was introduced to Sri Aurobindo's concept of integral development and integral education. And one of the tenets of this integral education is to be a lifelong learner, and that it's mind over matter, that you can do anything at any age. So I wanted to try it out, and I picked up the most difficult dance form and sport. One at the age of 33, ballet, and karate at the age of 35. So it was to check if the body is indeed, resilient, that at 33, when ballerinas retire, can you take it up? And I saw that it is true, that you can do anything at any age. And if you can do something physically so demanding, then you can do anything, any mental discipline or any other aspect of life. So that was to just prove to myself and check it out whether you can do anything at any age. And it was such a liberating feeling. But it was so interesting that जब मैं रशिया पहुंची, यूक्रेन बैले सीखने के लिए फ्रॉम अ प्रिमा बैलरीना, तो उन्होंने कहा कि मेरा टाइम मत वेस्ट करो, इस एज में तो बैलरीनास रिटायर करते हैं, 3 साल से शुरू करते हैं, 33 में वो तो रिटायर करते हैं. तो मैंने कहा मैम, हमारी एज कंट्री में देयर इज नथिंग कॉल्ड रिटायरमेंट. आई एम एन ओडिसी डांसर एज वेल, एंड माय टीचर केलुचरण महापात्रा डांस्ड इनटू हिज 80s. और मैंने उनको कहा कि आप मुझे सिखाओ, आपको एज के बारे आपका वो चेंज हो जाएगा. But then she said, why will I waste my time on you? क्योंकि आप, you will never be able to dance on stage. Then I said, again, in India, a dancer never dances on the stage for audience. And she was taken aback. Then what does she dance? Who does she dance for? I said, in India, we dance for the divine. And we dance for our own self-perfection. And in the process, if the audience also likes it and is happy, that's good. And then that was something which touched her, I think. And then she took me on as a student. And I went on to dancing on point shoes. Yeah, but you're right. I may be the only, karateka that can twirl on her toes. That's so amazing. That's such an interesting story. Because at 33, I think I started my fitness journey because I had my second child, but I wouldn't have imagined doing a ballet at that point of time. I think I had put on so much of weight that my toes would have broken probably. And I was also a mother, and interestingly, karate was something I started with my son. So he was 5 and I was 35 when we started. And we became black belts 2 years later. And that was also another experiment that can we combine opposites into our body. So one, as you said, is a chop and requires that hardness. And the other is so fluid and graceful, ballet. But then I saw that one helped the other. I could win the World Karate Championship because I could kick better. And that kicking I had learned by split of ballet. So when we train our body in opposites, Uh, so we kind of increase the range of what we can do.
That's so amazing. Uh, since you are into transformative education, what do you think is currently wrong with our education system? Because the drama unfolds almost every day in the Indian household, where the parents are after a child's CGPA scores in their quizzes, and the children are probably shying away from curiosity, from classroom learning. So, is that something that has been addressed through your through what you've been doing,
Yeah.
especially as a CEO of Transform India?
Yes. So I think we all know what's wrong with the education system and almost everything, I would say. To start with, the whole purpose of education is livelihood driven. And we talk about the golden days of Gurukul and all of that. So the fundamental difference there was the Gurukul system did not train you for a livelihood. It trained you to become a holistic human being and to find out your calling and your swadharma. And in the process, you also found your livelihood. So that flipping of becoming a fine person, a refined person, an integral person is the purpose of education. Today, we just train for livelihood. That's for starters, the problem. And then it's not about understanding of concepts or applying them that we know. It's about too much of abstract, just knowing and not doing what we know. So, experientially to understand and to be. And so, all of these I have integrated into my 5 pillars of education for the future, which I just completed my PhD in. And I'm also writing it as a book called School of the Future, addressing the issues that today's education system is facing and how we can have a transformative education to address. Because the purpose of life is more than livelihoods, more than social awareness, more than building, character and intelligence. It is about a journey of self-discovery, and beyond self-actualization to self-realization. So that's the purpose of human life, evolution of human consciousness. And livelihood is a very small part of it. But the problem with today's education system is it is 100% about jobs. And because it's about jobs and livelihood, it starts with CGPAs and scores because that's the way to it. But it does not train the kids on learning how to learn. More than 60-50% of the jobs are going to get obsolete in the next 5 to 10 years. So we have to train our kids to learn lifelong, to identify the self-awareness, to identify the gaps that they're having, then where to learn those gaps and the confidence to learn it. So that's the missing piece which we are trying to do at Hayal, where we, uh, uh, give them a real life problem to solve with. And during their stay there, they solve it, they come up with innovations. And that gives them that agency, that confidence, the skills. So after their education, they are confident to become entrepreneurs, change makers, set up enterprises, businesses, research labs.
Yeah. So we'll surely look forward to your book because I think that's every mother's pain point and every student's pain point that you would address through it. You have been an advocate of contextual education. So what does that mean and how do we implement that in our lives?
Yeah. So if you saw again, if I go back to the golden days of what we called, Bharat in India, the golden days, one of the things which was the hallmark was that we were locally self-sufficient. 80% of our staple needs were taken care of by the environment we were in, be it the food we grew or the homes we made, roti kapra makan. वो locally पूरा होता था. तो वो कॉन्टेक्स्ट का एजुकेशन था, कॉन्टेक्स्ट का नॉलेज था कि यहाँ क्या-क्या उगता है, क्या-क्या ग्रो हो सकता है, क्या पत्थर हैं, क्या रिसोर्सेज़ हैं, क्या मटीरियल है और उसी के अराउंड लाइफ थी। पर इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन के बाद कुछ ग्रीड और बिज़नेस हाउसेस ने ग्लोबलाइज़ेशन को एक बहुत बड़ा और फ्यूचरिस्टिक और मॉडर्न कॉन्सेप्ट हमें बेचने की कोशिश की, जो सिर्फ़ चंद मल्टीनेशनल्स को ही बेनिफिट करता है। तो इट इज़ लाइक नियो पोस्ट colonialism, यू नो, कॉलोनाइजिंग थ्रू कॉमर्स। तो उसके प्रॉब्लम्स हमें अभी दिखने को मिल रहे हैं, जैसे कोविड में यूएस जैसी डेवलप्ड कंट्री के सप्लाई चेन मैनेजमेंट ब्रोक डाउन। तो वहाँ पर रिटेल वाज इन अ मेस, यू नो। आज के दिन भी यूके में देयर इज अ टर्म कॉल्ड एनर्जी पॉवर्टी, क्योंकि वो रशिया और यूक्रेन के वॉर की वजह से दे आर नॉट एबल टू इम्पोर्ट एनर्जी, whereas India always had decentralized systems of economics. So contextual education enables that to happen. If you look at a far-flung village of Ladakh, which is Zanskar, people have 10-bedroom houses. If 10 of us went to stay there, we would happily be accommodated. They will feed us, they'll give us blankets. So to me, that is abundance, that is development, that is richness. Whereas if you go to your friends in Manhattan or London, they'll be counting how many days, you will be there and you are going to leave. That's because locally, Zanskar is self-sufficient. And the flip side is when you're not doing contextual education, then you have things like Uttarakhand, where more than 1,000 villages are now ghost villages. ऐसा नहीं है कि वहाँ पर रिसोर्सेज नहीं है, मिनरल्स नहीं है, पर लोगों को पता ही नहीं है कि वहाँ क्या अवेलेबल है। जैसे हम जब एग्जाम में पढ़ते थे तो हमें केस स्टडीज दी जाती थी कि आप पेप्सी कोला के सीईओ हो तो आप हवाई में क्या करोगे, How can one imagine? It was just whatever we wrote. We were just being creative and imaginative. Whereas right next door to XIM, you had this Pipili industry, that handiwork Pipili, which is world famous, but it's dying industry. So contextual education is if 20-year-olds like us, when we were doing our MBA, we are given that live project that make it a world, famous product. So do the marketing, branding of it and all of that. So that is contextual education that you have problems in your context and you have resources in your context. So how to use these resources innovatively to do innovation, leading to enterprise to solve this problem. That is business. And if we take this mindset and teach this to children, then India will become the entrepreneurial capital of the world, because we have the world's, maximum problems here in India. So solving each one in the context with the contextual material is what we mean by contextual education. Because I saw in my own case, after 20 years, जब मैं वापस गई उड़ीसा और वहाँ घर बनाया, तो मैं ज्योग्राफी में मेरे हाईएस्ट मार्क्स आते थे कि कहाँ पर ब्लैक सॉइल है, कहाँ पर सबसे ज़्यादा कॉटन ग्रो होता है, सवानास में क्या होता है, अमेज़न में क्या होता है। लेकिन मुझे ये नहीं पता था कि उड़ीसा में मेरे बैकयार्ड में क्या ग्रो हो सकता है। That is contextual education.
So you've also done a lot of work on sustainability. And in fact, even at IMA, we just held a competition on sustainability where workplace practices and home practices both were recognized through that competition. So I was very intrigued by the work you did there. And I read about ice stupas and how you are also not using any heating in your buildings, and they're all surviving without non-heating. So could you tell our audience or listeners more about that?
So sustainability is a direct consequence of contextual education. Because when you are invested in a certain context, right, then you will keep it beautiful, you will keep it healthy. So you will come up with the, practices which have circular economy embedded into them, sustainability embedded into them. So, like as I said, every context has a problem, but also has resources to solve them. So Ladakh has -20 winters. but it also has 300 days of sun.
Okay.
So if you can harness that sun into your buildings and make, passive solar heated buildings, which was an innovation done by Sonam Wangchuk and scaled up by me and others. So our entire campus is now passive solar heated, where when it is minus 20 outside, it is plus 20 inside without any heating. And this is what the education system is missing. Giving the kids the skills, the knowledge, and the confidence to not just copy from the West, not to just look westwards for all innovations, but to come up with our own grassroots innovation using our own brain. And
So what we saw in Three Idiots, that's what's actually happening at Hayal, right?
I think it's much beyond that. Yeah. Most of the people who visit, they say that movie, falls short of what's actually happening on the ground.
So were you a topper in your class? Were you always acing all exams and making your parents proud?
Yeah, so right from kindergarten, I remember I was the topper. But when I was in my seventh or eighth grade, I realized that what I'm studying, I'm not going to apply. So I started learning differently. But I had learned how to crack the exams to get highest marks also. So a lot of people who are toppers do not experiment a lot or do other things. But I found a way to do both. Yes, I was, because and also I loved studies. But there was a big turning point in my 10th grade. We used to have this magazine called Competition Success Review. So one day I read an article there that why do toppers not make it big in life? And it was like a wake up call for me, because I was a topper. And then I read that article, and there were a few things written which I found were true. Like it was said that they're very afraid to fail, so they don't try. They only take up things which they will excel in. Or then I saw that yes, I did have that tendency. And so after reading that article, I changed myself. I started trying things which I wasn't good at. Like I wasn't very good at topper at sports, and I would not even go there as well. But then I started going there and getting defeated. That was something I learned in that article. And if you see in life, it's not uh, only doing what you succeed in which makes you succeed. People who do well, they have no fear of failure. They just try out. So, yeah.
So I hope today's episode took you to the mountains of Ladakh, where innovation and ideas are as fresh as the Himalayan breeze. Thank you so much for your practical wisdom and insights, Gitanjali. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.